minds of the consumer what gas really means. So if you were to say, if I say, oh, I run my car on fuel or oil, you will ask, we're all discerning enough to say what kind. Is it diesel, is it kerosene, is it petrol? So with gas, there are a variety of gases, and what we wanted to do in the industry is to clarify so that we can bring to the consumer better information as to what the pros and cons are of each type of gas, and then they are better informed in their choice of what conversion system to use. So together with, as the NLPG, Nigeria LP Gas Association, and along with the Nigeria Gas Association, who's responsible for a different type of gas, as well as local distributors of gas association and the LCCI, Lagos Chamber of Commerce LPG Group, we decided to collaborate and come up with an infographic to explain to people the fuel side of the business. These are the gases that are available. These are the applications that they can be used for, and what are the benefits or downsides of using it for your type of fuel. So that we published.
Yeah, because I remember on social media, I could see people connecting the gas canisters to the generators. Yes. I'm wondering, can you use my cooking gas?
Yes, we can, but there is a caveat to using cooking gas. So a number of years ago, the Standards Organization of Nigeria did a very good job, or a great job, in defining these gases ahead of their own expectation of the rollout of the gas policy as it exists today. The gas policy as it exists today makes provision for 4 areas: power, autogas, industrial, and domestic. Unfortunately, prior to now, we've only focused on the domestic. But they had done their homework in terms of what do we need to do to make these ready. Now, cooking gas itself, what the moniker that we have for cooking gas, is suitable today, but the definition of it allows other components to be put in, which in future may not be suitable for use in your generator. So we've said, look, there's a caveat to using this particular type of gas. It is no different than, say, it's still LPG, but it has some components in it that may not suit your generator. So when the refineries come in, they change the composition slightly, and that's what we're trying to warn against. So it's like taking Coke Zero or Diet Coke. You choose whichever one is suitable for you.
Exactly, and for your car and for your generator, I guess. So let's look at infrastructure now. The infrastructure available is suitable for PMS, transporting, getting to where you can actually buy. Mm-hmm. So where are we now, with infrastructure for, gas?
Okay, so there is the danger of seeing this as the silver bullet, right? We've gone from fuel subsidy, then we're just going to rush to gas. Unfortunately, the groundwork hasn't been done. The fuel side is sorted, the infrastructure side needs to be sorted, and more importantly, the policy and regulatory side needs to be sorted. So in terms of infrastructure, we have the gas bodies that have infrastructure for supply and distribution to one segment of the 4-sector market I mentioned to you before, domestic. We need to now collaborate with the players who have infrastructure that deliver in the 2nd sector, which is Autogas. And those players are the downstream marketers today. So there are many associations in that regard, and everyone is positioning. Our view in the gas sector is this: look, it's not a winner takes all, right? We need to collaborate. We need to stop confusing the populace and policymakers. We come together and we enumerate and elaborate what we want, right? And what can be done. Across the country, these different gases will have their uses. We don't see you going to I don't see anybody going to a location and say, this petrol station only sells kerosene, right? You have different fuels available. They should be able to, we should be able to do the same with gas fuels. So it's a case of, look, if you're in Gombe, what is suitable? What are the fuels that are suitable to you? If you're in the middle belt, if you're in the east, right? What fuels are suitable to you? That's the narrative we want, as opposed to this winner takes all. It's only this type of gas that we want to use.
And, definitely everyone's running to gas now, or trying to run to gas because
Correct.
of, prices of PMS. So when, everything is all, set up, infrastructure, and, demand, sets in, is there a risk of, gas prices actually, going up?
Yes, there is. As with anything, as demand goes up, you have the challenge of prices rising. However, we've had a situation where gas prices have been unnaturally low, in our view. Okay, that depression of prices doesn't encourage investment in infrastructure. If you can't make your returns, you are not going to invest. So we need to have a balance whereby, look, there are investors who will come in, build the infrastructure, and consumers are willing to pay, and they recognize that, look, they are going to make savings against fuel, the current fuels that they use today. So yes, but in truth, a rise in prices is not necessarily a bad thing if it improves supply.
And definitely, I got that report earlier that this is the hottest time, right now globally, and definitely we all have net zero plans. At this point. Is this clean? Is gas clean enough, to help us meet those needs?
For our perspective as the NLPGA, that is a robust yes. Right? Gas is clean. Gas is, it reduces the impact on health amongst the poorest and most vulnerable population. It is abundantly available here. And when you look at, we need to be careful on the narrative of this net zero. It's net zero, it's not zero. Okay? So there will be some that will be above, there will be some that will be below. When you look at the OECD data in terms of developed economies and so on, and globally, 50% of energy by 2050 or 2060 will still come from gas. Why would Nigeria, as a gas-rich nation, be below 50%? So the narrative is not there yet in terms of should we be cutting back or not. We are not there yet. Let's use what we have to develop what we need to.
All right. Talking about supply, now I'm guessing we would not have supply issues going forward with gas.
That's a qualified yes. And why I qualify the yes is this. Right now, we have more than enough infrastructure to supply what we need, the immediate demand. But as we grow demand, of course, we need to put in more infrastructure. Of course, we need to make sure that supply can reach the new demand areas. And we need to be sure that regulation and the legislation suits the market that we want to develop, right? At the moment, it is barely fit for purpose. We need to be sure that we can roll out faster than we have done. Our view is very simple, right? We have a narrow window in which to do this. And therefore, the narrative needs to, or the rhetoric and the narrative needs to be matched with action.
And how big are the opportunities in the value chain?
I always say, so I give a lot of talks on gas, and I always say that right now we are still rudimentary in terms of our discussion on gas. We're still talking of primary level of use of gas. Buy it, burn it, generate heat, generate power. We're not really moving on into what we would need to be discussing as a developing or a developed nation. What can we make from the gas? What can we manufacture from the gas, right? In terms of agrochemicals, in terms of plastics, virtually all the things we use today, smartphones, windscreens, are made from gas products. We're not even discussing that. We're just talking about the primary use of gas. But first of all, we need to crawl before we walk, before we run. However, you must have a view to say, once I start crawling, what do I do next? And that conversation is not happening at the moment.
Well, we'll definitely have to have that, conversation. But another tough one right now is definitely the cost of living crisis.
Yes.
Nigerians are squeezed. Your disposable income is, attacked from every corner, right now. We've been battling inflation since 2022. So tell me about palliatives now, with this whole gas adoption. What kind of palliatives can we expect?
Right. So the reason that we put out an infographic, as I mentioned earlier, and the last page of that infographic talked about palliatives. It was a suggestion. It's a presumptive suggestion, but it's a suggestion nonetheless. Why did we make the suggestion? Simply because in our discussions, in our consultations, what most people are feeling is the pain of the rise in prices, inflation, and so on. So therefore, we can say, look, these are the areas where we think we can maximize impact. How do we get people to start using, those that are feeling the cost of a rise in petrol, what can we do for them? Those that are feeling the cost of a rise in diesel, what can we do for them, and where to apply it? Because if they have to go and find capital to do this, again, that's a problem. Those are the industry-type palliatives. Of course, you then need the consumer-type palliatives, which no doubt the government is working on, and we can make propositions on, but we have to be at the table.
Because at the end of the conversion is going to cost you money.
Correct, correct. And who's going to go and dig into that at the moment when they're struggling to buy food, right? So we have to find a way. You can't grow demand if you don't put in these palliative measures or these support measures to grow demand and support those that are willing to consume gas.
What are you seeing for gas adoption, say, in the next 5 years in Nigeria?
Certainly, we've made predictions in the past and we've always fallen short. Why? Because the infrastructure and the policy side has never met up. We predicted that we were going to be at 5 million tons. Probably that target we've gone beyond by 6-7 years. In terms of we are behind it. We're only at 1.5 million tons when we should be at 5. So I would say that if we do things right, in another 4 years, we should be at that 5 million tons. And that's on the liquefied gas side. Then you now have the pipeline gas side as well, which has its own growth projections.
And we also see EVs going into electric vehicles, so it'd be great having multiple options. You know,
correct.
I could use PMS if I want, I could use gas, or I could just charge my car and just drive it.
Precisely. If we want to keep referring to ourselves as an underdeveloped nation, we keep talking about petrol, gas, this. If we want to be talking about ourselves as a developing or a developed nation, we need to talk about energy, right? It is what form of energy do we need? Yes, those that prefer EVs, those that prefer electricity will use electricity, and they should be able to use electricity, right? Those that prefer to use gas or need to use gas should be able to use gas at an affordable price. And same for liquid fuels, right? But we need to talk about energy in a holistic manner as opposed to these silos that we currently have.
Exactly. Thank you so much. It was great having your perspective today, Mr. Felix Ikunda, President, Nigeria Liquefied Petroleum Gas Association. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lydia.
All right, we'll take a break now.